Hello, Graham Roberts here. In this series of tutorials we're going to be discussing PHP and MySQL, and I'll be using a service known as WAMP, W-A-M-P, which actually just really stands for a web server to show PHP and MySQL. And we're going to be looking at how to start it, so I'll just show you that. This is actually already started, but I'm just hovering over the WAMP icon, and you can see that I can call up localhost, which has already been done. PHP my admin I can request, and that will load up the access to MySQL, a front end, and you can see that's what it looks like and what I've got in there. We won't really be looking at that very much at all, but you can get it from there. We'll be looking at the scripts, and they're here. For instance, here's a create database script, and it says error, can't create database 2015, because the database exists. It exists because I've already run that particular script. I'm going to drop that particular database just so you can see how it can be created. So if I run this script again, it now is created, because of course it wasn't there. How do we actually do that? Well, we need to look at the code, and as you may know, if you look at the page source, it doesn't tell you very much because the script code is hidden. So let's look at the actual script code. The create database script has been linked, associated with Notepad, and this is Notepad++, which you can get off the web for free. I'm not going to talk much about that. Anything to show your scripts. Here's the script, and to create a database, I first of all, this is my HTML, so that's just to kind of set it up, and close off the HTML down here. In my PHP script, of course, starts in line 5 here, and it terminates here. First of all, I connect to the MySQL server, and I create an object called MySQLi. So I have to use new to instantiate that object, and I have the $database or DB as a variable to, if you like, point to this new object, MySQLi. The function, or we might call this constructor, requires to know where the server is and where in fact your website is going to be, and the password. In the case of a local host, I've left it with nothing in the password, which is dangerous if this was not a development area, and I've used the basic root, which is normal with localhost. So there's the 3 parameters, as they're called. I then check the connection to the database, and if there's a connection error, then I exit with a note saying connect failed, and what the error is reported by the system. I want to create the database. That's the point of this script. So I have a variable called database, and I give it the name, out of whimsy, db2015. I create an SQL string variable that will have this command, if you like, create database, the name of the database, which is db2015, and use the default character set and UTF-8 collate general CI. Now this is what would happen if you were actually doing this using PHP but we're doing this using a script, and that's good enough for this tutorial. I check to see if when I do the query, that is when I create it or seek to, that the result is okay. The result can be either that the database was created successfully or it wasn't, and in the case of the error we saw that just now, and we've also seen this just now. First of all, when the database already existed, we got the error, which is why I did it that way, and when we deleted the database, or well, we did delete it in PHP we could then create it again. Finally, I show a link to something called menu, just so we can get around easily without using the backspace key on the browser. And one must remember to close the database connection for efficiency of resources. And there we have it. One wouldn't create the database every time because obviously in most institutions, in real life, real work life, your database will already exist, and you may not even have a right to create a database. You may have a right and a need to develop tables and work on a database, but you might have no right at all to create a database. So in this particular case, I've just shown how you can do it, but it's not a script you would use very often. But there it is for completeness. One would upload one's scripts to an actual web server so that they could be used by other people. And here I've done just that at my website, grahamrobertsawardspace.info, and you can see the path here will take you to the menu which you can run. These have scripts in them, most of them, not the authorization scripts, so that you can actually see the source code. So if I do create a thing, it will enable me to create a thing table. Notice I'm not creating the database because, as I said just now, in practice you'll find, I think, that databases are created by someone else. They're already there when you start to develop. So I've created a thing table, and it holds, in this case, 7 things. The source code is shown here. Unfortunately, it's not structured very nicely, but I'll be showing you the source code for that again in a moment. But that's how it looks on the actual web server, and we've seen how it looks on the disk, on the development area, and this is how it looks in the local host, where on the local host I do create the database, because of course in a local system no one will have created it for me. It's all down to me. I will leave you with a look at the code again.